I think. Are we live? Is it working? Is it? Are we? Is this real? Is it functioning? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We are. We are functioning. This is so good. So I can probably take out of the screen everything that I don't need now. Uh, the only problem, and I say it out loud, I have been forgetting to do it in many other occasions, so to speak, to get everything that I remove back. So I will try, for the love of God, to bring back whatever I take out here. It's I had to set up like 4 different sources, all because I forgot to bring them back. So yeah, I kinda annoying, I guess. Anyway, I don't think I have that much more to really say besides that. Yeah, that we have finally come back, so to speak, after such a long while. We are back. Yes. Uh, no. Sorry. Yeah, after such a long time, we can finally continue with whatever it is that we have been doing. In this sense, we have been, before really getting into the discussion, into the analysis, I will rather take some time to talk about less important and more on the side things, so to speak, if there is anything truly necessary of that sort to consider. Um, I don't know. I guess since quite a while we have been going, so I add this comes mostly because people are finally starting to get back into this thing of recaps and whatnot. I don't know. I I don't even want to make any particular proper statement about that. What a incredibly boring thing. The important thing is we're alive, we were capable of doing whatever we wanted, and not in terms of other people got sanctioned, we didn't. In terms of we were capable of not getting banned despite saying incredibly stupid stuff sometimes. That is the biggest accomplishment, I guess, in that sense. And that is what, besides the reality of, oh wow, yeah, we keep on going. Besides all of that, what matters is that, yeah, here we are. No, nothing else, nothing overly complicated more or of that sort. It doesn't seem to be working in that way. Also, also, I literally added that because of this, why isn't it working? Uh, Hello, captions? Can you explain yourself? Uh, why are the captions not working now? What is even the problem? Weren't they like working? Yeah, I have no idea what's going on. I have no idea what's going on in what? Why are they not working anyway? Um, Wait, yeah, you can see the text. Why isn't it working anyway? Too many questions that are not important. And yeah. Moment, the Schonkler. We live in a society. Indeed, we live in a society. So I think it's always funny. There it is. What's going on? Why did it stop working? Why did the captions stop working before? What? There it is. There are captions. Surprising. Anyway, I, my bad. I trigger my dogs very much. My bad, very much. My bad. Anyway, I was trying to say that yeah, the really important thing is here we are, and we can do whatever it is that we want, and that's everything that matters, I guess. That's everything that is necessary to be thankful for, despite any other condition, despite any other reality, and whatever else. We can keep on moving and we can keep on doing whatever is it that we find entertaining, interesting, meaningful in any way. So that's more than satisfactory. By itself, I don't believe it's necessary to wear a worry. By oh my god, yeah. Time to watch this list of things that has no inherent value to itself. And time to say, just because I am watching this thing, thank you. It represents almost nothing. But yeah, thank you. No, certainly it isn't something that means, at the least, in a deeper analysis, anything. So yeah, leaving that. What the fuck? Uh, why did my dog decide to bark directly on my what's going on? Why is it barking on my window exactly? Anyway, uh, anyway, continuing. Yeah, the point is that the real things is are come from the reality of we have survived another year. And yeah, I guess also something that thankfully nobody points out, so I didn't need to mention. But yeah, now that we are talking about all of this stuff, also a quick mention to the fact that yeah, we did pass the what was it, the anniversary. I don't. It goes very much on the same line of that. I don't get to the point of that. I There is a moment in which I don't like to say it because I don't have the proper words right now. But if I had to try and say it, it would be something along the lines of there is a moment in which our celebration about meaningless things becomes the norm, and the possibilities of properly embracing the happiness that comes from truly good moments starts to deteriorate because you keep celebrating every single thing, and it goes pretty much in line with that same idea. We shouldn't be. We survived 1 year. Wow. Besides the randomness of life, there isn't really that much else to say or to add to that. It's quite weird to embrace some kind of happiness just because the very same meme of yeah, the earth did a whole loop around the sun and people goes crazy for that. I guess we were capable of surviving a whole loop since we started, particularly in our case, but I don't even know, man. I think it's very much weird in that sense, the way in which people think and goes out all of that stuff. Honestly speaking, but the real point is, yeah, there was nothing of that sort. There probably will be no celebration in line with that. The, the only important thing will be whenever we can celebrating a proper achievement that means something that we were capable of doing, not something so outside of our control, like existing anybody can exist. That's nothing particularly meaningful to. I, I don't even get it. What is being celebrated? Survival? Probably not. But anyway, it's. I already saw it. I will rather go for that. It's more entertaining than this. Anyway, hello, Castor. I hope you're fine. And yeah, how to stop um, playing League? Maybe maybe one of the many different questions that deserves to be properly analyzed. I guess. Also, thank you. My hair has been taken care of very much. It does look very nice. No, I don't think that is the only solution. I would rather say. Also, wait. I didn't say it to Arkia. I am very much accustomed to Arkia lurking, so I don't say hi to him. Sorry. Welcome, Arkia. And also, welcome, Sun. I am pretty sure I even read an answer to that, and I never say welcome or hi to Sun. My bad. Very much my bad. Very much my bad. But yeah, nah, I think there is that point of what is it? Understanding lurkers and whatnot. You need to directly call out everybody who says anything on chat, But yeah, the point, going back to the point, the question, the most important thing, how to stop playing League. What worked a little bit for me is a plethora of things, so to speak, but we have a lot of tools in our hands. One of the many interesting things that we have in the present is the possibility of observing how much time you might be spending on League. It it was rather shocking the moment in which I did compare how much I was mindlessly playing League, so to speak, compared to any meaningful activity or even a way in which playing League was enjoyable itself. Besides, or yeah, more than just sitting there and getting angry at the screen because characters in a video game don't do the things that I want them, or other people's actions end up unavoidably affecting me in ways that I cannot predict. It it ends up being quite useful in that sense to realize maybe, personally speaking, one is spending too much time. If there is no proper awareness, there isn't from a more psychological standpoint, if there is no proper awareness about the things that you are doing, there is no real necessity for you to change the behaviors that you have. So you cannot expect to be capable of realizing that you might as well need to abandon League if you haven't even tried to observe a properly meaningful reason, so to speak. It can happen that you can obtain a properly useful one, but it won't come if you are not even trying to think why to stop. On one hand, on the other, because it goes very much in line with this whole discussion of, oh yeah, this is such a horrible game and this is so meaningless in general without any other extra context as things that people simply say because they feel like saying it and nothing else. Maybe giving it a proper thought also helps. Maybe it does happen that you feel like indeed you end nothing by playing. Maybe. And maybe then. No, what? It literally. No, yeah. I guess if that is your objective, maybe not. Don't do it. Yeah, it won't. It won't work out in that way. Maybe If you're trying to gain something like that, let's say, you might as well take a different direction now that you can still act and gain something meaningful, or gain it through a more rewarding path, so to speak. I mean, think about it like this: it isn't anything new. You want to, being honest, you want to get laid. Go out and get yourself better in general. It will be easier than if you simply play a video game. If you have everything else, then whatever you do will probably attract someone into a certain extent. But yeah, playing League isn't going to solve the problem, you know? And even more, once again, if it is a hateful activity, it won't give you what you want in any degree. It, it doesn't work that way. ah, well, I mean, it's so over. I mean, also, I don't even know. I don't even consider that. But I will be pretty sure. I will confidently say basically most people in general knows at this point such a meme. And even more after the girl herself of Haktua ended up going viral, you know? Because of this whole rag pull that she ended up doing with her coin and all of that. So yeah, I think there is a possibility, but it doesn't need to be only men. But yeah, anyway, completely anyway. Um, I guess that just don't do stuff in general. I mean, don't do stuff that you feel bad about. The most important thing is basically that it it ends up being quite meaningless. Even if you do it 1,000 times, it won't change the fact that you hate it in general. The fact that you don't enjoy playing League won't change after 1,000 different games with a different build with every single champion that you can experience and whatnot. There are better ways to stop. There are more meaningful ones, I guess. I don't know. I mean, it's an incredibly, by itself, talking about how to stop playing something like League of Legends is complicated because there is something that doesn't get accepted, that isn't even properly being considered as an addiction, that there might as well be one. I have already known quite a handful of people who had an honest addiction to the game, that they could tell you that it is an addiction for them. But yet, with all of that, it doesn't seem to be so far by more serious organizations or something along those lines recognized as one, I guess. And sadly, there is no proper way of going about it if it is truly a problem. So every kind of argument made about it ends up falling short of. You simply have to try something that works out for you. Good luck with finding out the proper method. But yeah, I guess. I don't know. The only thing I understand instead of that is in the whole literature of addictions in general, you might want to replace the addiction that you have right now with something different that you can also use your time on, that might as well be more rewarding once again. Even if it is funny to say, no, yeah, I am doing it to get laid. Maybe, you, whichever reason is it, you can try doing better for the goal itself instead of using something so meaningless like playing League. If it isn't meaningful for you at all, I mean, that is also the same problem inside of this thing. Because on the other hand, League doesn't stop being a game. You can very much use it to what's calm down as a soothing mechanism after an an incredibly stressful day, you can use it, and it doesn't seem to be something that people recognizes to a certain extent, and that it is fine to do something like that. It can't happen. It is very much a huge possibility for anyone to go online and play a game and calm down. That's the whole idea. That's the whole premise of playing something. To remove your mind from the more immediate threats and stressful things. It can happen with Lee, and it can very much be something that benefits you instead of simply becoming, oh my god, I cannot believe it. Yet another half an hour of my life that I have spent angrily looking at pixels moving. It doesn't need to be that way. But we are not here to talk about Lee only, so I will leave it at that. I guess. Sadly, in general, I believe that people are not ready to talk about many things. In this case, properly seeing Lee as something more than, oh my god, what a bad game. Oh my god, what a bad system. Anyway, I going back. Don't worry, and I mean it. Don't worry. Also, very much that's why I was trying to say it. You can play Lee. I don't think it is a horrible thing to do. I don't like the incredibly huge dramatization that has been made about playing League, as if it is going to be the most stressful thing that you're going to do. Like, if you're a serious League player, you're going to end up with an honorism here or in 2 months from now. If you keep playing every single day a certain amount of games, no, it doesn't work like that. It literally doesn't. Gets somehow it became the speech, the normal story nowadays. But yeah, besides the point, um, I was trying to say, continuing with the thing that was before, simply that, in shorter words, retaking what I said, there was no anniversary. Thank you very much. Uh, I mean, basically, back to that, you have the opportunity to be thankful every single day. You need to do it the one occasion that you're reminded of it, only that one day is the meaningful one. You know, you need to. You have more opportunities to be thankful to the people that is around you. You don't need to do it only one day. Expressing what you truly enjoy and what not should be fine, man. Should be more expected of you. I don't like this notion of, oh no, yeah, this is the only day that you should feel obliged to say that you are happy with the things that you have. Every other time that you do it, you're forcing it. It doesn't even work like that. There isn't any kind of, so to speak, subconscious speech that exists in that way. But if we want to justify the celebrations, I guess it works. I don't know. The real point. Hello, Sim. I hope you're fine. The real point is that, welcome, Kaisin. Uh, I know it is like incredibly early in America. I know Arky streamed, so I know he probably didn't go to sleep. But I know for you, Sin, it might be incredibly early or incredibly late, probably. But anyway, too much attention, bringing too much attention to somebody, putting them too much into the spotlight. My bad. My bad. Not doing it consciously. Trying to get better at that. Then, if it is early, then it is fine, I guess. It's better than super late. Having rested, even if just a bit, is better than having gotten no rest at all. So yeah. Anyway, welcome. That was what I wanted to say, and I did say. So yeah. Keep on, keep on moving. I guess. Anyway. Also, I have the activity feed. Why are the things not showing there? There has been only one reading, but it doesn't show. I might be. Anyway, I don't know. Probably the moment in which I will only know it after the stream ends. If I miss something, I will realize once it updates. Anyway, sorry. Um, I was trying to say before, yeah, um, that thing, think tanks. I don't know. It's there are many, there are too many things. There are too many things to talk about, and suddenly going only into that is overly complicated once again. I don't like this idea of, yeah, you only have one day where it is acceptable for you to be thankful about the things that you have, and where it should be expected of you to be capable of expressing how much of a gratitude you feel towards the, so to speak, undeserved things that you have gained, not only by your own efforts, but also because of the different rewards that have been given to you through other people. That I don't like, and I certainly don't enjoy the narrative which accepts anything of that sort as the norm. But it doesn't even happen like that. It doesn't even work in that way that, oh yeah, you can't stop. You, if you try to say that you are happy about what you have, at any other point, you're going to get shot and you're going to get killed. No, it doesn't work like that. People are simply not accustomed, so to speak, and that's where an even bigger or more worrisome of analyzing problem lies of, yeah, sometimes it obviously will make sense in the long run that you have a problems considering any kind of success that you have as something of that sort if you never even give yourself the possibility of considering that you did indeed achieve a lot of meaningful things, that you were capable of gaining a lot of incredible goals. You only do it in certain occasions and only because there is an already given structure that forces you to do it. You cannot even pay attention to what you did, and you expect to somehow realize that you are, so to speak, somebody great, somebody who has indeed accomplished something wonderful. It doesn't happen that way. It's the very same premise of, yeah, life. You can live life completely unconscious. No, you can't. You literally end up completely angry after some time, where you feel like you are never gaining anything. You cannot look back and see how many things you did, in fact, obtain. You cannot realize how great it is that you are doing in the present compared to how it was going before. It's an incredibly deranged idea that, yeah, you have no obligation to consider the things that you have gained as something meaningful, not for the sake of overestimating what they are, but simply for the necessity of observing what they mean in general and what they allow you to keep on doing because you have simply those things in your hand. I, I don't like any of that stuff, but we are not here, thankfully, to talk about anything of that sort in deep, I guess. So it also is no concern, at least for now. The we have been here already for half an hour, so I guess we can properly move on and we can properly start. That's what I wanted to say. We can properly start with the topic as always. A little bit of of proximal topics and secondary topics before really getting into the one big concern. That's what always I feel like is the best. After all, there are many things, sadly, that are interesting to talk about. There isn't just one idea that is interesting to talk about, so sadly, uh, you have to spread out in that sense. And very much half an hour of completely unrelated stuff works or satisfies me. Also, because I will probably, being honest, I will probably keep on going without going into any particular direction. But I know I end up overspreading, so to speak, and getting even tinier in terms of proper definitions and whatnot. And meaningful things said. That's the most important thing after all. Saying anything that has any proper value inside of it, besides just, oh my god, yeah, 1 plus 1 equals 2. Surprising. Saying facts doesn't change anything. So yeah, it's because of that we don't have, I guess, lag before. The best example is lag before, completely mindless talking. So yeah, um, let me drink some water. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you. Let me drink some water, and after that we can properly start with this whole thing. I didn't even conceive this as a series, as something that was going to become more than just one stream project, so to speak. But the reality is, as I keep on always saying, there are many things to talk about. And sadly, there is a certain degree of a disservice made when you ignore topics that have a lot of shoes on them, so to speak. And this is indeed one of them. Properly trying to understand what is it that refers to human effort and what is it that talks about all of this narrative of having desires and being motivated to do something and whatnot. It's quite depressing, I will say, to ignore all of that when indeed it has so much potential inside of it to be, in any degree, a meaningful discussion to have. Very much. That's why continuing in that lane, this one particular series, I guess at this point, being this third, I don't know, I guess episode, constitutes simply another way of trying to portray anything of that sort. Because I do guess, in that sense, we can properly mention many other things similar to what we have already quickly mentioned in the introduction, so to speak, in the unrelated introduction, but properly beginning. Human efforts, third chapter, society. Wow, what does it even mean? What's the point? What are we even trying to talk about here? In the present, so to speak. We are particularly mentioning or trying to talk about there is a certain narrative, we can say, in which any particular human might as well have their own goals. But it also needs to be aligned with two different things in societal terms. The goal itself needs to be in line with two different things. Firstly, with the canons of what is so far acceptable in the present, and secondly, the canons of what will be acceptable based on the rules already existing of the present of any given society, what is an understandably positive aim towards the future. And certainly, this great problem that exists is this doesn't get mentioned enough because most people don't even realize that sometimes the desires that they are having, which they end up saying that are frustrated not by themselves but rather due to how other people act in accordance to what they propose, all of these things need to be in order, not just with the individual, to a certain degree. It doesn't happen that when an individual at any given point finds something interesting to do and they commit to that, they can accomplish whichever thing they wish without any other consideration. There is a certain degree of a problem in this principal concept because there is a certain degree of hidden power, so to speak, given to any society itself because they might as well order and alter which kind of efforts are going to be the valid ones and which kind of efforts are going to be the most useless ones that anybody could have. The problem is, in this case, to begin with, not realizing that this exists because you won't be even capable of observing that indeed what you are wishing for means nothing at all. If the place in which you are wishing for such a thing doesn't even conceive such a notion as something useful, it is, so to speak, instead of this whole ordeal of human efforts, there is an even bigger problem that is to realize what can personally feel satisfying, obviously. But if there is a moment in which you can find something satisfying for yourself, and you cannot even realize that what you are proposing from your personal perspective doesn't go in line with the rest of the narrative of the society in which you exist, there is no possibility of finding that validated either as something worth pursuing, which could very much be the best case, so to speak, or as something in the worst case, something positive at all. Not in a simple sense of, yeah, this isn't good. No, in a sense of any kind of negative thing might as well get squashed before it goes into any even worse direction. In that sense of, yeah, maybe take into consideration that there is indeed uh, something ordering even the things that you wish for you silently, so to speak, could be useful. And there is, I say that I was picturing this whole idea, and I hope it doesn't give off the visual of the secret or the invisible hand of the state. No, I am not talking about something so complex or so vague at the same time as that. No, I'm talking about something more noticeable. In any given society, the way in which different individuals arrange themselves is through the understanding that there are certain things which are valuable for every single individual. If we were to trace ourselves to one of the older texts that we can cite in regards to this, talking about some, yeah, one of the modern ways of conceptualizing the world that we have been caring for so long is the Aristotelic model. Inside of that, there is a certain idea that is, in any given state, one of the most meaningful things is for us to generate a concept that talks about what is good in regards to anybody without it meaning anything for any individual in itself more or just because they are that individual. It's the common good which can allow anybody to be happy. And inside of that, it is that certain ideas then end up falling as negative things and completely undesirable things that should be avoided. Inside of all of that mixture of concepts, we end up realizing basically that it it's nothing overly complicated. It simply has many ways to refer to the same concept because people keep on mentioning that in different ways, trying to explain it themselves, so to speak. It simply is, if you want to do something and the rest of the people who is around you cannot even encourage you to do it, there are going to be problems. Nothing else. The only continuation of that is maybe useful to take into consideration itself is the bigger the problems, the less you will be capable of realizing or bringing into reality the desires which you have. That's where the most fundamental definition stops. In terms of simply explaining the mechanisms of how it works, you can obviously say things like how to open up a way of discussing these with the authors, how to see it. Yeah, I think it is. If we were to once again, if we were to try and give this yet another way of picturing it, if you talk about someone like the existentialists, you might as well also bring into reality this concept of the self and the other being existing in the self might as well be the capacity of observing the different wishes which you possess and at the same time creating a rivalry which yet another thing which exists outside of what you are in order to justify also the things that you wish. There might as well be, in that same sense, a certain degree of validation generated from posing, so to speak, the rest of the world which is around you as the enemy, but that is at this point is obviously getting overly complicated. It doesn't need to be overly complicated. It can happen. It doesn't need to be a so deep idea. It simply is. And repeating it like for the fifth time already. You wish something. The rest of the people around you cannot see it as anything meaningful whatsoever. Good luck realizing whichever thing you wish. Good luck. It probably, in general, won't happen. Not because you don't have the capacity, but rather because in the whole zoom of governing efforts and governing potential, there is more potential of canceling and negating what you wish for from the whole society than from an individual perspective, your whole potential as just one human of obtaining what you wish. That's the simple math, so to speak. But that isn't in the whole idea. That's just the minimal introduction of this. Because there is something very funny. If we were to trace back to what I said before, one of the many ways in which you can conceive that is through the Aristotelic model. If there is something that has been properly performed by society since a long time ago, it has been the conception of something that minimally resembles an idea of goodness that does indeed try to benefit anybody. Besides more modern mechanisms entering into the play, the simple notion of I have enough to survive, in this case, I guess, wealth, I have enough health to be capable of enjoying my existence, and I have enough ways of using my time in which I can see it as something meaningful, just with that things, with those three things, so to speak, it's it's an already enough conception of goodness. You there is no need to overcomplicate things more with deeper conceptions like, no, yeah, in a capitalist society, you might as well be observing that there are different mechanisms which might as well allow the obtenance of happiness through the achievement of even bigger wealth and even greater obtenance of higher goods, which are obtained only through individual efforts realized by the individuals through collaborations and what. No. Once again, no. You need to overcomplicate the idea. The idea is only you have your goal, and in this case, your goal is also to a certain degree dictated by the place in which you live. That's everything so far. And in this case, the point is, because it has been already dictated, many people already know which kind of things are beneficial for everybody. And that is the main focal point here. If there is something that is beneficial for anybody, even more for everybody, you can ensure then that unavoidably it will also be good for you to ensure. There is, so to speak, it doesn't feel good to say it, but it is, in the final analysis, even more. If you were to be capable of pursuing something which guarantees satisfaction, not only from a personal perspective, but also from the perspective of others, you can ensure that your efforts are going to be validated because anybody can realize that what you have is to a certain degree is meaningful. Uh, eh? He? What? What is this guy talking about? Also, hi, first hour, but I don't even know. The book? Which book? Who? I mean, you said he. Who is he? Uh, who? I am missing context. Did my chat die and I missed some message before this one? What are you talking about? I don't know. I know. I literally have no idea. Yeah, I guess I don't even. I mean, I am trying to think. I did mention to a certain degree like 20 different people. So yeah, if you want to tell me who you might be talking about, I will be greatly thankful. I have no idea who you are talking about. Assassin's book that he referenced on Twitter. He? Who is he? The Assassin's book? What? Uh, maybe I, I will feel bad, but I will refresh. Maybe I did miss something. I hope so because I do not know what you're talking about. Sorry, my bad. I guess, but yeah, I also probably responding to the question itself. No, certainly I don't. analyze that many books in general. He was reading. Uh, you mean that the guy who killed this doctor, the CEO of the pharmaceutical company? I think it was something like that. I didn't even read that deep into it, and also even less. I don't even know which philosophy books he was reading, but the only thing I saw it was through some clip of, I think it was Asmongold at that point, that I got a clip of the killer was interested in reading Main Camp. Nothing else I know about that guy. Yeah, but yeah, no. I didn't read his Twitter or anything like that. It didn't seem. I don't think there is that much to gain. I maybe saying something like this might be potentially dangerous to the channel, maybe. But sadly, there is a certain degree of incongruences in the story. Okay, let's say it like this. There is one particular green text, I think. Uh, People has pointed out some inconsistencies in how the guy acted and out of nowhere changed his way of behavior. There is a particular green text about that I think has become somewhat famous. At least famous enough for somebody like me to see it. That's everything I'm going to say before it takes us. Oh my god. Are you being an Apollo? No, I'm not. I'm just saying it seems strange. Anyway, uh, but yeah, if you want to, I guess the proper response will be if you want to say the philosophy books, I can very much tell you if I have read them, assuming that I have read them, uh, tell you anything. But yeah, I don't. I didn't care that much about the guy. I mean, I don't know. It's an incredibly crazy situation, no matter what. And yeah, also sorry. Welcome, Grespian. I hope you're well. And thank you. Good morning, Beer. Good morning. Uh, but yeah, let me drink some water. I guess. Also, I was want to say something, but I remember comparison is the killer of joy. Thank you very much. Wow, incredibly wow, an idea. So continuing, moving on, going back to the topic. Assuming that First Tower doesn't provide us with the books that the guy was reading, continuing, we were on the line of simply so far. After having mentioned the most important thing, efforts, human efforts individually speaking, which do not go in line with the rest of the views of the society, might as well get squashed. Besides that initial idea, there is also something secondarily important that is the reality of, at least so far, we have also, luckily enough, created a model which allows for a subconscious communication of what type of efforts are in general accepted as positive and necessary ones. I think I do not want. I there is this idea. People are not stupid, but I know to a certain degree, if you start mentioning like too many people, it gets overly complicated. But maybe let's say like this: if I mention someone and you literally don't know who I am talking about, or where the idea itself that I mentioned from them comes from, maybe it means that it's time for you to adventure yourself into those texts because you can very much understand them. It doesn't mean that you need to be a genius to understand anything that I am saying. I am going incredibly slow to a certain degree to say something without feeling like I am overwhelming anybody. But continuing back to what I mentioned of anybody can realize which things are in general through the, so to speak, subtext existent in any society. Here is once again yet another name. I think it was what I wanted to say. I think it was Noam Chomsky, who at a certain point mentioned even also how in the modernity we have begun to a certain degree accustomed to the differences in which this process has been taking place, so to speak. There is a certain degree of problems existent from trying to any degree to accustom yourself to what is it that you desire when as an individual you cannot realize which things you see as useful ones, while on the other hand the society itself is moving in a completely different direction, and not because the society is not part of the individual, but rather because there exists, so to speak, a more higher power governing society beyond what the average individual can achieve, and with obviously more shares of power than what the singular individual possesses, that dictate the different rules in which the system itself plays. This is a necessary consideration, so to speak, in line with, and sometimes, what anybody can conceive as good might as well not be something useful for themselves in particular lines. But, and here is the important clause to that enunciation, but anybody who takes the time out of their day to consider, after observing what in general, so to speak, so trying to give it a better structure, you have different types of organizations. You have the societal one, in which different people arrange themselves to fulfill the wishes of any given society. After that, you might as well have the more community based ones, in which different tinier groups of people arrange themselves in simpler ways, because there is a lot of less people involved, so to speak. And there is finally the two final exodus of the family, the most immediate type of relationships that you have at the best family and friends, in which there are minimal ways of arranging one another's in relationship to one another's, obviously, but in the end you have the individual, which is the final way of arranging oneself based primarily on the desires that you have. This is, in this case, a useful model because the idea that the simple premise is the moment in which the propositions created by any given society do not benefit the individual, the instant in which an individual is capable of moving the proposition from a societal point of desire to a to an individual one, and realizing that what they are wishing for is particularly for them, therefore for anybody else who might as well be under the same condition or in similar ones, not a beneficial thing to have or to pursue, is the person who can finally escape the shackles of unnecessary wishes and implanted desires through these kind of powers. There is an incredibly subversive narrative of, no, yeah, you're going to be given stories and desires, and you will be made to believe that there are different efforts that you should be pursuing that you will indeed not like. Doesn't work that way. It doesn't in the minimal least work that way. One of the many considerations that needs to be properly observed here is anybody who has the capacity to understand for themselves the different ideas that rule out the world in which they exist has the capacity to also by themselves realizing when they are being forced to deal with different tasks that do not benefit them in any way. And not only them in a particular level, because the individual is the most important thing, but rather the quality of the individual, so to speak, talking through a societal lens in which any particular individual might as well benefit from the very same wishes, which in the end allow the whole society to find themselves to be satisfied. That's where it matters, and that's where it has any sort of value. It, it's one of the most fundamental things to properly understand, so to speak, in this whole discussion, and that's, I guess, so to speak, throughout different things. Obviously, sadly, this is an incredibly diverse discussion. This doesn't have just one tiny thing to mention. As always, sadly, you can't simply say, yeah, this is this way, this is this other way, and abandon the idea completely. I guess if you had to make any particular mention of something like that, you cannot create simple aphorisms and expect anybody to make sense out of them. Doesn't work that way. Messages need to be clear enough so that anybody can understand them. And messages needs to be not concise, because sometimes being overly concise means that you are leaving too much interpretation to the reader, which might as well not be sitting in the same place of knowledge that you are. Conciseness is not the word in this case. The idea itself is you need to be capable of handling as many similarity related things as possible so that you can minimally hint towards the whole ideas that can, to any degree, orient anybody to a better understanding of the underlying concept. In this case, I guess I have, to a certain degree, only mentioned many different things without directly going, in this case, back to what it means to have, or what should the main goal of this discussion be, that is, human efforts in general might as well be constituted not only by the human efforts themselves, but also by the different modifying, modifying and enabling factors that exist outside of the individual and which might or not allow the different wishes that exist inside of anybody's life for them to be performed. That's the message in a boil, so to speak. And that's the only paragraph with which you can start. But it doesn't end there just because it has that. There are more layers and there are more important things to also keep on trying to discuss that also need to be addressed because I guess once again, no, many too much information makes it hard for anybody to understand the point. But also, the moment in which you demoralize yourself because you stop believing on your capacities It doesn't mean that you are not capable of doing them. It simply means that you are enacting a narrative in which you rob out of your own degree of true potential. The future self that you might end up becoming from obtaining those things. Very much in line with that, it happens that properly getting to know many different optics instead of this whole discussion is not only a desirable but also an achievable task for literally anybody who can follow up to this point. And I simply make that excuse to justify, in this case, I guess, mentioning yet another name. Uh, I have been reading, also continuing with studies inside of one of the many meaningful things to have into consideration. One of the most influential epistemologists, I think it is, his this particular categorization, Immanuel Kant. One of the most important things that Kant proposes also is the idea of the individual in line with what we're talking about, not the whole, the most important premise of Kant, in line with what we're talking about. There are many different structures which exist not to allow individuals to accomplish what they want to, but simply to overregulate things and to overly structurize things which are not in any degree useful to the true desires of any particular human endeavor. This tries to mean that there are some structures, some, if you wish to call them that, if it is something that allows for an easier understanding, governing powers, so to speak, that make it look like certain things are more precious and more meaningful than others, when they are indeed not at all valuable goals, and even more, because they are also are in charge of regulating, they have a lot of commonalities when it comes to trying and discussing or observing this whole idea of, yeah, maybe there are some things that relate or not to this whole thing of, I wish to accomplish something. I wish to accomplish anything. That's the main thing. I wish to accomplish anything. I want to know which things might I individually be capable of accomplishing. There is a certain degree of structures given in any society which do organize what an individual can think. And I did mention firstly, the most important one in that case, sadly, is the individual itself. If you as an individual end up disabling you from the potentials that you hold, or so to speak, the potentialities that you have inside of your own self, simply through thinking that you stopped being capable of, there are less important ones at play, and there is a higher risk of you not achieving anything through that way. If an individual cannot realize that they might as well be gifted with the possibilities of doing what they wish for in any meaningful way, there is no other bigger damage done to the individual. Sadly, in this case, it doesn't happen that anybody gains things simply because they try, so to speak, to do something meaningful or not. It is a higher avenue of understanding, so to speak, to be capable of realizing that indeed the biggest institution which at the very same time remains The most inaccessible one for most is the individual itself. But besides that one, ignoring the, so to speak, the strength of the primary one, what we have been talking about already, many other ones created to organize and dictate which rules are the acceptable ones in the playfield and which ones need to be changed do exist and do organize the way in which we move ourselves in any way. Now, I haven't really moved almost anywhere with these descriptions. There are different directions that can be taken from here, understanding once or at once that there are, as I have already mentioned, different things governing any particular desire that anybody could have. It allows for something wonderful, that is the possibility of analyzing them from an outsider perspective and realizing maybe that what they are proposing is not at all a useful narrative. And the moment in which that finally happens, the proposition of, and here it is that something meaningful needs to be said, not destroying, replacing the structures, not destroying them. You cannot simply go on and destroy something that has been existing for so long in any given society. You must be capable of replacing that with something better. If you were to destroy every single institution, you will end up with an anarchy, not with a better state or a more filtered one. Every single thing exists, so to speak, inside of any particular given state with its own particular function, and even if it is a failing one and not a functional one, destroying it won't make the state itself as a whole a better one. It will make it an even more feeble one and a more easier to squander by the upcoming rival state one. Luckily enough, we don't live in an era in which that many countries go to war, so it doesn't need to be a war to say, yeah, if you were to destroy too many institutions, you might as well make your own country go into a crisis that will ensure that you go into war with different foreign and proximal countries. It doesn't happen that way, but it doesn't mean still that destroying stuff is justified. The act of replacing is the act that is meaningful. Now, going back to the point before I lose myself yet again on another tangent, we are talking about the moment in which anybody can realize that the particular structure which exists in any given state is a meaningless one. The possibility of replacing it arises. And once again, here exists the dynamic of, first and foremost, the, the individual needs to be capable of realizing that they possess this potential to be capable of expressing it in any meaningful way. But secondly, and continuing with the proposition, there is also something as equally important existing here, and that is in this discussion of I want to change things, but I feel like there is no possibility of doing so because the state might as well be incredibly powerful. In the observation of this whole, I think at this point is more political, so to speak, sadly. Um, I don't know. I guess as a side note, footnote, I wouldn't consider politics at this degree. It's very much like talking about Aristotle's and whatnot. It isn't really politics about any given country. It's simply about the reality that abides to any particular individual and being capable of understanding things to a degree that empowers you to be capable of acting with more capacity. Nothing else. It isn't a, oh my god, yeah, I hate this particular person or this particular government. No, I don't care about that. I literally don't care. I am talking about, in this case, going back. End of the footnote, I guess. Going back. In the whole political system, there is something wonderful existent, and that is the reality of, and you can indeed gain something from realizing that there is always the dialectic route open for you, in front of you, when it comes to these different problems. And even more because, once again, we'll re-establish that we're not making any crazy assumption here out of nowhere. Based on the Aristotelic model, something incredibly old. What is good for the individual should be good for the whole city, for the whole society, for the whole polis. If there is something that doesn't work, doesn't satisfy anybody, it might be something that everyone can observe. Also, hello, Roda. I hope you're doing well. we are. This is the first time we're talking about human efforts. Uh, Sorry for these students, I guess. We are like 1 hour and 15 minutes deep into this discussion, so indeed, it got like perhaps overly complicated at this point. I don't know. I can, as always, anybody could follow this, I am pretty sure. But at the very same time, I don't know if it is happening. Anyway, the point is, as I was saying, final line that I was saying, or something like that. And also, thank you, son. Um, the political way that has been existent since millennia at this point is one that predicates the possibility of those who can finally argue why something is meaningless are given the possibility of restructuring, say the thing, into something better. And that's this whole premise is very much in line with what I said before. You don't have to destroy things. You have to be capable of reshaping them into something meaningful. Again, you cannot rob out the state of their fundamental parts, even if they for you seem meaningless. You need to be capable of changing how they arrange themselves in any given society. That's the meaningful thing here. And instead of that line, once again going back to this particular author premise, the moment in which you can see as an individual something that is negative is the moment in which you are allowed to modify it. And why is this important? I said it before. I will say, yeah, I guess it doesn't mean that creation doesn't need distraction, but so to speak, there is a different process here. The distraction doesn't need to be a physical one. You need to burn a whole empire before rebuilding your new city under the already or the previously existing one. Thankfully enough, yeah. What what we can do is conversion, so to speak. I think uh, yet another mention of something else. I think it is one of the principal ways of alchemy or something like that. You need to transform things. You cannot destroy stuff. You need to be capable of reshaping what is already existent, so to speak. Yeah, basically. You need to be capable of repurposing, in this case, what is already made and be capable of giving it, in, in this case, the direction that satisfies you particularly, you know? It doesn't need to be the complete disappearance of, so to speak. We're talking about here in general society, people's life and whatnot. And if you were to consider that you are going to destroy, for example, a whole institution that doesn't satisfy in any way society as a whole and doesn't bring to them any kind of meaningful gain, what matters the most is not making it disappear and destroying it. What matters is being capable of reallocating every single effort that is already being outputted into that particular space into something that finally is meaningful. In this case, the discussion is you cannot let people go just because you're doing I guess the most mundane word will be a half-assed work when it comes to these things. You know, you cannot leave it at the middle road and say, no, yeah, I took care of the problem. No, you didn't. If you simply destroy things, you're not taking care of the problem. You need to be capable of changing things properly into a better direction. And anybody can do that. Here is where I was trying to go with that. Political way and this and that, the discussion and this and that. How is that possible? How can anybody consider that? That's what I wanted to say. How is that understandable? In which way is that understandable? One of the most obvious things, I guess, I don't think there is any other way to call it than obvious. One of the most obvious things inside of this whole realm is the political system that governs throughout the whole world through different lenses is still a political system in which dialect is the most important thing. And that is important in this case because as long as anybody is capable of creating a solid enough argument and also being capable of defending that argument against the different attacks that might come its way, as long as anybody can do that properly, the possibility of generating the change that is needed exists. And this is based on an incredibly old premise. As I said before, a millennia old premise of a system which created a concept of, and any particular civilian, so to speak, any particular individual who forms part of any society is endowed with the possibility of making those who are in power notice which problems exist. The sad reality, obviously, in this case, is people doesn't even understand that you have the possibility of doing something like that, and that you have, so to speak, the power to be capable of fighting for those things that you realize are bad in any particular way. I guess the depressing revelation is unavoidably there are many different things which could have gotten solved at this point if people were to mobilize themselves towards trying to solve those issues. Sadly, that is the reality, but it doesn't mean that it needs to simply stop there at saying, oh yeah, there are issues that haven't been solved because people are lazy. No, the problem is people forget incredibly easily that they have certain capacities. It's like, it isn't, I, it isn't even a fantasy. In many different respects, the individual itself has many capacities to obtain the different things that they can picture in their minds. The problem is being capable of acting in regards to those wishes that you have, and acting in accordance to what you see as the plan, and the believing that it is a possibility of doing so. Once again, I already mentioned that before. The biggest and most important structure inside of any particular state is nothing else more than the individual. If the individual cannot conceive a possibility, you might as well be condemned to live in a reality in which that future might never come and that potential might never be expressed in a meaningful way. It isn't like a huge revelation or anything like that, sadly. It doesn't work in that way, and it isn't anything new, so to speak. It simply is something that it doesn't get mentioned enough, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I think I did go in a completely different direction than what I wanted to when I was thinking about this. But I did mention at the very same time, even if through a completely different way, what I wanted, I think. Let me. I will simply repeat what I said in different terms. Because I also want to see if I mentioned everything that I wanted in regards to this topic when I was thinking about it. Yeah, basically, we talk about the individual, the governing powers that are outside of the individual. Um, uh, I think also different ways in which it can be conceived, different ways in which an individual interacts with this, in which it is also limited, and also the possibility of fighting against that, so to speak. Not, and also that's the meaningful part of this. Not in a direct opposition to the power, to the governing power, so to speak, an incredibly revolutionary message like, yeah, like other authors will say, so to speak, without mentioning any more people. Um, but simply saying, and indeed, there are some things that, if they need to be changed, can be changed. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. 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 Yes. I was missing something. I was missing something. I mentioned I mentioned that at the beginning of there are different governing structures which dictate and completely quote unquote completely disable the individual from achieving and being even capable of deciding for certain things. That is true. But there is also something even deeper that goes in line with that. And it, at first, it might seem like a bad message somehow, but the simple reality is, as much as it exists, the possibility of a dialogue which enables any individual to accomplish what they want in terms of, I don't know, overthrowing useless structures inside of any society, there are also underlying structures which enable, through dialogue, a proper explanation and a proper discussion. And this is the most important part of this, a proper and extensive discussion about why certain things should in any way be considered meaningful when the already existing powers consider them to not be of such a nature. The capacity to realize that you also have the possibility of fighting back, so to speak, when the society itself tries to silence what you say is necessary, is as equally important as the one of changing what you have realized is useless. Because at the very basis of the premise lies the very same idea. What is useful for the individual is, in its final analysis, supposedly meaningful for the society as a whole. The problem, in this case, I guess, is being capable of arguing that solidly and consistently enough through different powers, through different systems, and through different perspectives, which indeed conflict with yours. But it doesn't mean at any degree that it isn't a possibility and something that can be highly appreciated. It simply is the reality of, after a long process of analysis, a good enough argument can be created and a good enough defense can be made for it so that any kind of counter argument which is thrown its way ends up being dissuaded of believing that it doesn't need to be realized or brought to reality anymore, so to speak. That's, so to speak, the other side of the very same coin. There are powers which indeed do oppress, but oppression is born primarily for the necessity of negating potentially damaging things. Like for example, sorry, you need to oppress people from going into nuclear factories if they have no nuclear knowledge at all, because you don't know which kind of chaos might be brought from that. And it isn't something negative. You don't need to have people going in there just because they want. You don't need to put people at risk. But on the other hand, if you have people be overly avoidant of other natural animals in the wild, what you end up doing is alienating people from realizing that they can indeed coexist with the rest of the animals. There are different things which are arguably necessary in some cases to uphold and in some cases to change. The only reality is, if the individual, any given individual, cannot stop for themselves to evaluate which kind of things are valuable and which kind of things are not, there won't be any comprehension about why this exists. But the minimal basis of why oppression is there is on the basis, on the ground of because this tries to be helpful for everybody, because this tries to make it easier for anyone. Living in complete, I think the word is heterogeneous environment doesn't allow for an even better existence. If there are no boundaries and if there is no limits which you understand, you shouldn't be crossing. There is no way in which you cannot aim towards something in particular, because there is also nothing that delimits which thing is good from which thing is bad. Sometimes limits are incredibly unnecessary, and that's why the main idea is yeah, you can fight back against those, but on the other hand, there are things which are incredibly useful to have, which, if you properly understand, will allow anybody, and in the final analysis, obviously, you, to mobilize yourself towards any meaningful direction. And now, I guess I did mention everything. I don't know. I have been talking about this for like a whole hour, so I feel satisfied. I think so. I mean, after all, this is only about society, no? Human efforts, but only about society. I cannot go that deep into other directions, I guess. I mean, there are other assumptions and whatnot. For example, yeah, the human is capable of doing this and that isn't discussed that much here. That was already, so to speak, laid down, and that will, to a certain degree, also be properly talked about, particularly when we're talking about the concept of potential and whatnot, which isn't contained in here particularly. So yeah, it's it's complicated, but not that much. It isn't hard to understand at all. It isn't hard in any way. Anybody who wishes can get the idea. That's the reality. Patience is the key, certainly, but anybody can obtain that key. So yeah, I don't know. I think I if there is no question, I will probably. I don't even know if there is anybody live for me to write. I hope so. I mean, certainly there must be somebody throughout the wholeness of Twitch live. But yeah, also, uh, unstable? This thing was unstable? What? Why did it say unstable? Anyway, it's finally updated. The activity feed at some point updated itself. We are so back. Aha! Okay, 5 minutes. 5 minutes of me doing nothing. Because also, yeah, yeah, I disappear completely because there it is. Because I don't exist there basically. So let me do this. Let me do that. Let me. I knew I missed something. I was. It was bound to happen basically. It was completely bound to happen. After all, it was bound to happen. So yeah, we're going to be with like 5 minutes. But yeah, I guess meta discussion of the discussion itself. I do think at some points I did repeat too many times the idea. Maybe unnecessarily so. Maybe. But the main primary thing was to talk about it at all. So yeah, at the very least there is that. At the very least. And yeah, I don't know. I guess continuing with this talk about when this is going to happen next, no idea whatsoever of when are we going to continue with all of this. Yeah, no, I that might be too much of a complicated question. No idea at all when can we continue with this, I guess. Probably in the weekend or so. Probably. But at the same time, trusting in me and and my and my time and what this kind of risky, so to speak. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't recommend trusting in my guesses about when are we going to continue at all. Maybe, I mean, I could even do it tomorrow if I were to wake up in time. Maybe, I think so. I don't have any real excuse, particularly tomorrow. So yeah, it could very much happen. I I have no idea whatsoever. But yeah, what a thing, what a crazy thing. Anyway, um, oh yeah, I have. Now that I consider it, I am tired. I have found myself to be tired. That's all I can say. So we're going to ride. Thank you very much. We are going to ride. That will be it from me. Yes, I I don't have that much more to add. Thank you. Also, I do feel bad about this tower. He was talking about this shooter. I literally didn't read about that guy. I didn't even pay attention to that. I mean, I think it probably is like a big deal or something like that there. What other thing to not be American? What other thing to not be from there? I guess. But yeah. Anyway, uh, can we raid? Yeah, I have found somebody. I will. I was going to say the completely wrong name. I was going to say bookshot or no. This guy. If you have never seen this guy, he did the trick shot for a fishing game. I don't even know the name of the fishing game. I think it is web fishing. That's the name. This guy did that. I don't think probably he will be happy to know that it became kind of his main quality. Probably nobody will be happy to know that, I guess. But yeah, this guy. Eh, Harry. Harry. Oh, Harry? How do you say Harry with an I of that sort instead of the other I? English language. My favorite. Anyway, there we go. Message on the chat if you want to copy that. If not, thank you. Anyway, the real point is thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Thanks for lurking. Whenever we can, we're getting back here. I assume that I have died if I don't stream in like in a month. Probably won't happen. Also, no! Fuck! I forgot. Do we have time? Do we have enough time? Let me. I completely forgot about that. No. Wait. I can cancel a raid. Thank God I can cancel a raid. Um, Thank you, Twitch. What a beautiful creation. Hey, I wanted to say, I wanted to say, I wanted to say before leaving, I was forgetting about it, and we even had the main organizing here. Um, my bad. I this this guy, this thing, this event, first tower, hosting a nuclear, nuclear, nuclear Minecraft. Minecraft game, cube game, very much server, nuclear craft. Yeah, follow that guy, watch him tonight, be happy. That's my whole message. Now for real. Now we can try. Now we can try. Uh, that's it. Yeah, that's the whole sum of it, I guess. So sorry for having almost lived without saying that. My bad. I didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean to do that. Eh, anyway, now for real. Go follow First Tower. Minecraft collab. You will enjoy it. I'm pretty sure. I hope I have maybe played more than what I can recognize that game, so I hope the fucking game doesn't explode and we don't lose our whole progress. I hope. But anyway, whenever we can, we're getting back here. And until then, be happy, do good stuff, enjoy life, rest, take your time, do what you like, do what you want, and yeah, have a nice one. Whenever we can, we're getting back here. I don't know when. Until then, take care basically. Now, more important thing, raiding Harry. I don't remember what he's doing. Well, but raiding Harry. We're going to discover everyone together what he's doing. Thank you. No, this is so old. Sana gets here at the very last minute. Anyway, it can happen.